What's up, wrestling fans? Let's get right to the point. A couple of weeks ago, or rather, it's only been a week actually. A week ago, R-Truth was released by the company. A lot of people, some people who either didn't know me or whatever, made fun of me because I did a video where I talked about R-Truth and the report that Triple H was backstage kind of laughing about the fans' reaction. And by the way, I'm not saying Triple H was not laughing about the fact that Truth was released. Triple H, for the most part, likes Truth. Triple H was just kind of laughing at the backlash and how crazy over the top and wild it was. And it was also said that, Triple H was also like, wow, like I knew that there'd be some blowback, but I didn't think it was, this is ridiculous. And he laughed. So anyway, I talked about that on my show, and I said, I wouldn't say this if I didn't believe it, because the person who told me is very credible. And then what's crazy about that is in that same sentence, I also referenced I never talk about my inside news that I get, because I never get inside news, almost ever. I almost never do it. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to read the other news that's already out there. But sometimes I get stuff, and then I go and talk about it if I'm allowed to. And in this case, this was something I could talk about. But I also had mentioned a couple of weeks prior, actually. You can go back and watch the videos, that WWE was restructuring contracts everywhere, and they were trying to rework everybody's deals, and they were getting kind of aggressive about it and almost angry. That's why Braun Strowman, was cut, because they didn't want to pay this guy, like millions of dollars, and they basically choked him out and got rid of him. Almost is another guy that they're either going to cut or they're going to negotiate a smaller contract with than what's traditional for what he's been doing. But now I had mentioned to you guys, and I had mentioned to everybody, that there were problems with a lot of people's contracts, and the WWE was going to try to whittle these down. And now what do we have today? We have the news the last couple of days, rather, that Roman Reigns' contract for $15 million or whatever, WWE is trying to rework his contract. And I had mentioned to you that there was something going on with Roman, and I wonder if he's dealing with this too. And then I was told he was, and this is a problem. So what's happening? Is Roman Reigns going to end up leaving the WWE? Is he going to stay in a stalemate? I can't imagine that Roman Reigns would leave the WWE. Especially with The Rock's influence in the company. I mean, it would be really ugly and really bad. But the WWE does want to restructure Roman Reigns' deal. Roman Reigns getting basically the Bret the Hitman Hart type of deal that Vince McMahon gave Bret Hart back in the day. And then Bret left for WCW. This is very, in my opinion, reminiscent to that. Although there's no WCW threat, there's definitely a threat. And I think the only thing, there's no WCW I don't think that Roman would go to. Obviously, in this case, it's more about, like, can Roman go to Hollywood? Can Roman go to AEW? I don't think they're going to provide $15 million for Roman either. But if Roman Reigns were to start being able to do small movies and make a couple $100,000 per movie, and then get big enough to get a bigger role where he gets $5 million, and then get to the point of, like, being sought after a little bit for these roles, kind of like a Batista or somebody, where then he can make $20 million for a movie. I mean, there you go. So that is that could be what Roman does, or most likely they'll renegotiate, maybe, and will Roman Reigns essentially take a hometown discount or a oopsie discount to stay with WWE. I could see potentially Roman Reigns negotiating into, like, okay, we're not, we want to give you $8 million or whatever, and Roman Reigns would say, well, then I want to work half as much as I was gonna work. So I could see Roman Reigns potentially accepting $10 million or $8 million or something like that, but only if the WWE were to really give him full control of his appearances and stuff like that. And I just think that that's kind of crazy. They're definitely not, I don't know if they're not happy with some of his, upcoming commitments or whatever, but I knew this was coming, and now it's come out. And one big thing that it does, if you've stuck around in this video long enough, this is the most important part of what I'm about to say is this. Everything I told you that was going to happen with that other situation, I told you that I don't get a lot of sources. I don't get a lot of people that talk to me. But I told you that the Triple H thing, I'm telling you it's real because people were laughing and joking and making fun of me, and they were like, you don't know shit. Where's the source? Who? I'm like, I'm going to tell you who told me. Like, ridiculous. But people didn't believe me. A lot of people didn't believe me. So, but the other thing that I said was this, and now this has happened. So what this does is this verifies that the person I was speaking to has been correct about everything, because I told you about this Roman situation before anybody reported it anywhere. And because I'm not really a reporter person, nobody found out about it except my audience. The other thing is the Triple H story in the back. So that's 2. We're 2 for 2. Well, there's no proof, I suppose, of the Triple H thing from anybody outside other than me. But the Roman Reigns thing solidifies it, because I told you there was 2 or 3 things I was told, that I'm going to talk about. And I already talked about the Roman one. I talked about the contract structuring. And then R-Truth had happened. And now this is going on everywhere. So just so you know, for anybody that didn't put the pieces together yet, now you can take the video that I made about R-Truth's release. You can take the comments I made about restructuring WWE deals, and you can take my comments about Roman Reigns' contract, and you can take them with a little more credibility now. I just wanted to make this comment so that people, remember that there's most of the time I won't tell you things like that without, I'll tell you when I'm fully believing something is true. When nobody else is reporting it, I know it's harder to believe. So it's not like I'm, Schlong's view, just saying, oh, Roman Reigns is dead, everybody, or whatever, just making stuff up all the time like other channels do that, and they make a living money doing it. It's real. So that's it. People have been commenting on AJ Styles forever. AJ Styles is not a mystery. I don't know why people still do this. It was about 5 or 6 years ago or something like that AJ Styles went to Vince McMahon or WWE, and he basically was like, I want a lighter, deal. He carried the company for about 1.5 years as the champion or whatever over time. He really was one of the mainstays as the guy at the forefront. And he just was like, nah, I'm done, checking out. Put me on the side a little more. I don't want to be the champion anymore. And ever since then, AJ Styles' career has really been just nothing. He just he kind of goes out there, has these little matches, and he's ready to ride off into the sunset. He's mailed it in a while ago, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, dude, with all the stuff he's done to his body, he needs to relax so he can, he really should retire, because rather than be crippled when he's older, because he's already going to be walking a little funny and, a little beat up over the years, rather than keep wrestling until he finally retires. He's not exactly going out like Shawn Michaels. I mean? Like, I feel like Shawn Michaels was still going at a 10 to the very end. Like, I'm going to kill myself doing this. And, until his retirement. AJ Styles, well, and I don't mean that in the way that AJ Styles isn't putting in an effort. I just think that AJ asking for, like, hey, put me on the sideline. I just want to, like, play video games and come out there and do my matches here or there, and that's it. I don't want to have to be the guy carrying the company anymore. I'm glad that AJ got to do that. Like, I'm really glad that he got to be the guy. Like, he really did. AJ Styles for like 1 year or 1.5 years or something, maybe, or so, I don't know. He was like the guy in the company. He was really the big dog. And that was a really cool time. And I would love to go back and kind of like reflect on that, because there was some good matches in there. Even when he got into the James Ellsworth stuff. Remember that? Like the James Ellsworth stuff? Like, he had good matches with James Ellsworth. It was a good, that was probably, we'll look back on that as probably AJ's best time in the WWE. That 1 year run, and he was champion for a while. I mean, that felt right, It felt right. He felt like the champion. It was good. And there's a lot more to talk about, but just wanted to come on here and say all that. But officially, I don't believe that Roman is going to. I don't know why I keep showing the Elon photo, but officially, I don't think that Roman Reigns is actually going to leave the WWE necessarily. But there could be a little bit of an ugly battle and negotiation period between Roman Reigns and WWE. I think Roman should have a lot of negotiating power. I mean, it could work out for Roman even better. Like, hey, I'd like to have a 5-year contract and $8 million, and I only have to work, 30 times a year. I mean, it will be bad for the WWE fans because Roman will essentially become like the new Rock or the new like legend guy that comes back all the time, and they'll put him in more of a role like, and I know that to me, Roman Reigns is not on the level of Stone Cold, Undertaker, or, those type of people, The Rock. But Roman Reigns is this generation's now biggest name, kind of. And, he could end up becoming, the next guy that he only wrestles at more like John Cena. Like he's only going to wrestle, at SummerSlam, WrestleMania, maybe 2 other pay-per-views. And he's only going to appear on TV, 15 times a year, 20 times a year. So he'll get this sort of like light schedule, and he'll still have a pretty big contract. But I think the WWE sees it as like, well, if he's only working 85% of the time and we're paying him $15 million, that's crazy. So I understand, but WWE is tightening their budget and belts in a way that's, I don't understand why. They're so rich. The company is so rich, richer than ever. And they are really tightening it up. Now, I do think that they went overboard with a lot of these contracts, and they did go a little crazy with some stuff. So I would say that they're about 20 to 30% over their budget, like as far as paying wrestlers. It is logical to say that okay, yep, I understand that they're about 20 or 30% over because that they really are. So, but they're going above and beyond to cut budget all over the place, and I don't understand it. As a company that's winning so much, I just don't understand it. But anyway, that being said, I don't know. Subscribe to my show. Leave a comment. Super thanks. Patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. And I hope you guys have a good day, because it could be our last.